Welcome everyone. Today I just wanted to cover provisioning an API key and then authenticating that API key in Jira Automation. So you do have to base 64 encode that string with your email address to authenticate, and there's always confusion with the syntax and everything. So I just wanted to make that clear in this video, just to help out anyone that might be struggling and banging their head against the wall with that 404 error. So let's get started. So I'm actually in a project here, but what I want to do is just see this little site administration bubble, or my profile settings bubble rather, sorry. And what I'll do here is click on manage account. Okay. And what we're hoping for is a certain level of permissions across projects to actually execute these keys. So you want to make sure you're using a highly leveled authenticated user, just because that's trickling down from those user preferences, or permission settings, sorry, not preferences. Essentially, we've got this section here in these profile settings. So it's under security and then under API tokens. So you have the option here to create and manage your API tokens. So we'll click on that. Okay, and you can see 11 minutes ago I had a failed recording, so let's start again. So we're going to call this our API token, YouTube. Okay, and I don't mind about doxing this because this is actually a test instance spun up, and it will not be in use by the time this video is published. So what I've got now is a copied API key. Now where would I go with here? So in my description here of this video, you're going to see some resources. So sorry about clicking through there, but this is the one that I was trying to get to. So it's essentially how to authenticate in Jira, and that's what I'm running you through, but I'm also adding that where you paste that in Jira and the other little bits and pieces needed to authenticate. So essentially what we need to do is copy this. I have that API key right now in my copy and paste, so I'm going to use that first, and let's clear out. Okay, so this is my key. Feel free to try that one out. We're going to jump in here and steal this code. I think putting the code in the description is probably not the best idea, but what you can do is just navigate to this Atlassian documentation and go from there. Now we've got our user example and API token string. So what do I put as these values? So my API token string is this with no line breaks. Okay, so you want to make sure that this has kind of just been copied straight from that editor and not been, taken out of your console command here, because that would include some line breaks. Anyway, we also want to get our user ID, so our user email. So to get that, I'll just jump in here to profile and get my email. Okay, you can see Atlassian University just because this is a test university account. Okay, now if I jump into this and just need that email address before my semicolon. Okay, no spaces, email address, semicolon, API key, straight from the API key personal security, and that is going to work and give us our encoded text. So let's run this. Okay, and we can see a lot of blank areas, but we actually get our encoded key. And I'm going to copy this encoded key. Again, line breaks, so I'll process that just in here, but you can paste this in Notepad wherever you want, and you can copy this key thereafter. Okay, once I've got that in my copies, I'm going to go to a project with webhook. Okay, and you'll see one I prepared earlier, and that was just a little mess up in the recording. So let's not do that again. And we're going to start from scratch, just so you guys know there's no editing magic in here, and this is how easy it is. Okay, so we've got our authentication in our clipboard, so I'm going to save that first. Okay, so we can see I've pasted my key in here. That is actually not finished. I also need to write the word basic with one singular space before my API key starts. I don't need any sort of quote marks or anything in there. This is sufficient, and this is all you need. Okay, and then in the content type, or in this key section, we need the authorization header. Okay, we can add another here, and we're going to add just exactly as it appears right underneath. So content type and then application / JSON. Oops, you don't want to spell it wrong. Okay, and you can actually just hide your key thereafter. So while you're configuring it, you might not want to do that. You want to maybe expand this section, validate, okay, and potentially use a web request URL just before you start there. So now what I'm going to do is navigate to the API documentation and just grab one of these. So in the API documentation, I'm going to get project role details, just to keep it simple. Okay, project ID or key. Instead of that, let's actually just put PA, which is the project ID of this project. But you could actually use that smart value there to use this as a global rule. Okay, and we also need the our Jira site. So I'm just going to double click my browser, copy this first section. So Atlassian.net / REST API. So nice and simple. Okay, now let's validate. Okay, and it's because, again, I am not reading the documentation, so I need to click on get because that is a get request up here. So let's just try that one more time. Okay, we've got response with payload, and we can see our payload in here, so we don't necessarily need to run this rule. We can just make sure that we're getting all of the data we're expecting just by running this and validating. And especially for what I'm doing here with roles, that will help you with any kind of administrative level where you're just trying to return all of the payload. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to leave the rest up to you, so you can get quite creative with this. And yeah, good luck. That is it.